Well, one thing that threw me, Case, was I thought they were going to read your bio.
Okay.
So now I'm going to improvise a little bit.
All right. Let's do it.
How many years in auto?
17 years. Actually, look, I got a little thing here for you. I spent 17 years on the agency side. You know, for those of us that have been around a long time,
Yep.
I'll run through the alphabet of agencies. It was CME, KHBB, Bozell North, Bozell, FCB. I'm gonna call Pentamark there for a hot second. Then it was BBDO.
BDO.
And yeah, so 17 years, you know, I had a shit ton of coffee cups and, you know, basically one CEO, you know, working for the Colonel, Mike Vogel, for 17 years, all in the tier 2 business. Yeah. And then, you know, when Chrysler went into bankruptcy, came out of bankruptcy, if we recall, you know, employment levels at Chrysler Corporation at the time were the lowest since the Depression. And when the lights were flipped back on, I mean, literally, you know, the agency model had been, you know, blown up, if you will. Same at General Motors. And there was a number of us, like Marissa Hunter and Melissa I mean, there's a bunch of us that moved from either agencies we're at, or at the time we moved over from, you know, Omnicom.
Yep.
To what was that, you know, then turned into FCA.
Yep.
And that was a wild ride working for Olivier Francois. You know,
Yeah. We
CMO.
talked a little bit about some of the shoots, and maybe we'll get into that later. But
Yeah.
what you just established was a very long history in auto, right? You've been at Rocket now for over 5 years.
5.5 years.
So I'm curious, big auto city.
Yep.
Why the change?
I mean, I've told the stories, you know, friends, and some deeper than others, but you know, it's, you know, 25 years in automotive, and I was kind of asking myself, maybe like, what's next?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I really hadn't put myself out there much before. I had conversations. I always believe that it costs nothing to have a conversation. If anything, you get to learn from other people and maybe help others in the business from a networking standpoint. And I was starting to ask myself, like, what's next? And trust me, I loved every moment at FCA, in Stellantis, and that was a great ride. And then I'm a firm believer, everything happens in life for a reason. And I got a fateful phone call one day that they were on a CMO search at Quicken Loans, now Rocket. And the CMO, who was becoming the CEO, Jay Farner, was interviewing somebody else. And that human was one of the final candidates, and that human used me as a reference. Yeah, and so I got the phone call as the reference, and we started having a conversation. And I went home and I told my wife about it. And 2 days later, I was like, you know what? You never get anything in life you don't ask for. And I emailed Jay, and I was like, I would love to maybe have a further conversation with you. Now, I'm gonna be clear with this, like. Yeah. I'm still friends with this human.
Yeah.
We tried to hire him twice since then. He has since gone and taken even higher elevated roles at different places. It doesn't matter the who. And but you know, it's like anything else. And so, you know, did I think I was going to go from automotive to mortgage? Right. No effing way.
Yeah.
And but it's been 5.5 years, and it's been an amazing ride.
That I will admit, I'm embarrassed that I didn't know that.
And not everyone knows that story. That's something you don't.
That's a great nugget.
A funny one is I was at the organization maybe 4 or 5 months. We had our all company meeting at LCA. We had what, 17, where's Wico? We had about 17,000 people there. And I was back behind stage. I was literally sweating because I was like, and Keegan Michael Key was there. And I remember Keegan goes, have you ever presented in front of this many people? He goes, I'm nervous. I'm like, shit, if you're nervous, I go, no. I mean, I've done like DA, like AdCraft, not 17,000 people. And I'm backstage, and I'm hearing Jay, and we don't rehearse anything a lot of times. Like, a lot of it's improv. And I'm backstage, and so there's a delay, and I could hear Jay telling the whole company about how he called someone else, and I was a reference, and then blah, blah. And I'm like, well, thank you very fucking much for explaining my whole, like, you know, like vulnerable, interview process in front of 17,000 people. But yeah, so I figured if 17,000 people know,
yeah,
tell 160 here.
It ran.
Yeah.
So upon entry,
yeah,
what was, you know, what were things that stood out to you? And we'll go 2 paths. I mean, we'll stay positive, but I would say what stood out as some of the challenges, and then maybe some surprises, like just unexpected, pleasant, Wow. What are some of the things that you'd like to discuss?
Yeah. And one of the things too is people may ask, you had started with like, hey, after 25 years, why the change? And, as I was very intrigued about the opportunity. And so when I came downtown and I spent probably 8 hours in interviews, and during the course of that, I met I met some leaders that now report to me and team members that are part of our team. And I was like, is this true? Like, it's like anything else. It's like, am I watching a stage production, or is is perception really reality of my perception? And I had heard about this guy, right? I mean, being here in Detroit and watching Dan and our vice chairman now was CEO, Bill Emerson, and Jay Farner now our CEO. Like, I was watching what was happening with Quicken Loans. You couldn't help but hear Rock Financial when back before the Quicken name, and then watching the Quicken name brand. And I'd always hear stories, but I didn't know anybody.
Yeah.
And so I was really intrigued, and I got to be honest with you, and we'll talk about this a little bit today with my team, but in the back over in the corner, there's our isms books. And these are our foundational values. Dan writes this book every single year. And the day of my interview, someone handed me an isms book, and I went to the top floor of the OCM garage, and I spent about 45 minutes just flipping through the book and it's foundational values, and the things that are in there of yes before no, every client, every time, no exceptions, no excuses. You'll believe it when you see it, and like just on and on. I was like, wow, like those are beliefs that I have. I may have said the things different. And the words might have been different, by the belief, the core values and the belief system is something that aligns to who I am. And so I was like, shit, like I really want to be a part of this, and I don't know how. And like anything else, I had a perception of what I was walking into. And throughout the process, I realized like, wow, you have 100 people here at the time. I didn't know that. I didn't know one person. I didn't know one, and I'm pretty well connected in Detroit. And I'm like,
oh yes,
how do I know anybody here? And then when I got there on my first day, I was like, my gosh, you have the in-house agency model here, and what do we got? And and fast forward, 5 years now, like we've got 14 brands that we're seeing. We're at 300 team members. We've grown. We'll talk a little bit about that with some of our leaders later. But and so what I would say was a challenge.
Yeah.
I would say, and again, a moment of vulnerability is complete panic for the first year. You have to realize moving from industry, 25 years. So I was a product of the environment I came from. Right. So culturally, I'm interviewing right now with executive creative directors, and I talk a lot about philosophy and culture, and I was talking to someone recently. I told him, I said, it will be very strange for your first year, because, and I went through it, and which I was like, this is important. Why is this important? I don't know. Right. Because at Chrysler, at BBDO, this isn't how we did it. And this is how I wasn't trained. And so a lot of it was like changing my mindset as a leader, as a marketer. That was personally one of the biggest challenges. And, I give the analogy as well, JK, that, I felt like, I transferred from Birmingham Groves to Sea Home in spring semester of my senior year, and like everyone, like I always jokingly say is I could have probably killed Olivier and I had a 50-50 shot of keeping my job. Right. And then I moved to a company that nobody knew me. And I was like, I got to start from ground zero.
I love that you shared that piece though, because you were so familiar with that three-legged stool, having worked agency.
Yep.
And yes, different vertical. But your level of familiarity, I think maybe there would have been an expectation that onboarding or you getting adjusted to it maybe wouldn't have been a year, but you sharing that just knowledge wise, I think hopefully is telling, and being how is that interview process going, by the way?
It's going very well. There's one thing, as Melissa and I were saying, like, Detroit is still, a long time here, and, generations before us, still such a dynamic, creative, marketing community. Yeah. Not that we're going to throw Super Bowl, trophies on the mantle, but I will. We're back to back. USA Today ad meter #1. Thank you very much, Rocket. Yep. General Motors was before us. Yep. Jeep has been there. The creativity is alive and well. And, so to have a chance to bring a new creative leader into our organization is so exciting, because I'm so proud of the path that we've been on for certainly before I got there.
Right.
And over the last 5 years since I've been blessed enough to lead the team, like, in some ways we're a 37-year-old startup and we're just getting started.
Wow.
And I'm
You're
beyond,
yeah.
I'm beyond excited for what
You're
the future
excited.
holds for us. Yeah.
So those last 3 years, talking about that though, relative to ad meter, I mean, unprecedented though, Casey. Yep. And you see where we're headed now. We talked a little bit about this in advance. And I'm wondering how you prepare your team as we start to kind of change in the dynamic of, I'm going to say it, just interest rates and
yeah, sure.
the economy. I mean, but how do you prepare them for that?
Yeah, great question, JK. I mean, I'll lean back a little bit on my automotive, and I tell this story, and Melissa and I were chatting about it earlier, and when I have a chance to talk to other marketers and other folks in business, I was chatting with you about it on the way down here this morning. We've been through cycles. Yeah. When I started in this business in 1993, I remember like I was 21 years old. I was working on DAA. Where's Brian Green? Brian Green was my, I was his traffic coordinator, and Brian was my DAA account executive. And, I was like, I'm going to Pebble Beach and going to dealer meetings. And, every meeting you went into, every meeting was like, we're up 40, 50%. We're adding more money. I'm like, yeah. Business is pretty easy. Yeah. And then like all of a sudden 98, 99, all of a sudden that 50% was 10% or flat. And then, 01, things were a little bit nerve wracking. Sure. In, 2000 and 01. And when the planes hit the tower, no playbook, right? No playbook. And then as we, as America, got America rolling again, as we, you're welcome. That's the old Chevy tagline, which is a brilliant campaign.
It's good.
And then think about it, we started rolling again. Yeah. And all of a sudden, 08 started to feel really weird. And, those of us that are around, I mean, I were distinctly laying in bed watching, I've never watched so much C-SPAN in my life, right? Oh, and, the fate of two iconic automotive companies sitting on a Senate floor that, got passed from an administration to administration. I lost 50% of my home value, right? Yeah. And I'm a young parents and, in my second home trying to grow and, build, financial wealth. And I'm losing 50% of my home value. But guess what? We recovered, right? And so one of the things that I really believe as a marketer and certainly as a leader, for leaders here in the room, what we're going through right now isn't like we woke up in Q1 and said, oh no. Right. We, when I say Quick and a Rocket, like we had distinct conversations last summer of like, the pandemic in the mortgage business was, I use the equivalent, I love using the automotive equivalency of, I remember when we were doing $89 Pacifica leases, we sold a shit ton of Pacificas, right? And everyone was pat everyone on the back. And you know what? We had our $89 Pacifica with 2%, 2.25%, interest rates, and the refi, and different than think about gas, right? And how gas prices go up. And so as we started to see, and the notion of interest rates will rise in 22, we started preparing last August. Truth be told, like all of a sudden, coming out of really after the Super Bowl, the interest rates, the moves that the Fed have made, certainly as we see across many industries and sectors, it's becoming more challenging, much more challenging. I mean, obviously we see where interest rates are, and I won't speak for Melissa, but I'm a consumer of vehicles. I love getting a new car every 18 months to 2 years, and my cost of acquisition has gone dramatically up over the last 2 years. I was also used to driving that $89 Pacifica, relatively speaking. So, but one of the things that I want to make sure that, I talk to my team about, and I'm sure Melissa does and other senior marketers here, is it's about painting vision and sharing stories and history. If Jay Farner were up here today, he would tell you what it was like here at Quicken Loans in 98 when the bubble burst. Okay. And they were all here. And then they will tell you about the stories. I was not here, but during the mortgage meltdown in 8, 9, and 10, and what they, Dan, Jay, Bill, our executive leadership team, what they did to, one is prepare, handle, but most importantly, plan for the future. Right. And so But if you're newer in business, right? And maybe you weren't here in 98, you weren't here in 01, and
That's right.
you were maybe in college, or you weren't like, deep in business in, 8, 9, and 10.
Mm-hmm.
This is a challenge. This is and will be the most challenging 2 years of my career at Rocket Mortgage, but it's not hard. What was hard was 01. What was really, really hard was 8, 9, and 10.
Yeah.
But I'm a better human today and a better business person and marketer because of my experiences in 01 and 8, 9, and 10. And so I can tell you what we are doing. And I think about, again, our automotive friends is think about all the investment we're making right now. Like,
right.
If a CFO was up here, they get nervous when you talk about investments,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
In product and technology and human capital. But as we come out on the other side of this, I'm not a futurist, and but if we're here where we are, and we'll see where where the market is through the balance of 22 and 23, when we collectively come out on the other side of this, it's going to be another leapfrog moment for Rocket companies, and we'll share a little bit about that with my leaders later. And that's what I'm excited about. And
yeah.
And it's hard for me, but it's a challenge. It's hard for me because I haven't gone through this as a
on this side, yes, as a
Rocket marketer, but how do I lean into my experience or meeting with mentors and other thought leaders in how they've dealt with this in the past in the fintech space? But I can lean on, what I experience in the, in my automotive life and apply it. But it's also about painting vision to leaders and all of our team members that maybe haven't gone through this before. And we got this.
For sure. And I think I'm looking around it here. We don't need to see maybe a quick show of hands, some of Casey's team.
Yeah.
I know that, yeah, really impressive.
Universal McCann here as well with us today in Intersport.
That is, he unbelievable human. I've said that. And I think drawing on those experiences, Casey, sharing with them, you're just passing it on, and we'll come out the other side. And a lot of these folks that hadn't experienced that challenge or those challenges, they'll have their own stories to draw on.
Yeah, but that's also, I'm a firm believer in, people ask, my wife asked me first and foremost, like, you're really busy. Why do you do all this? Right. And I'm a father, I'm a husband, I try to be a friend as well as I can be. And I was blessed to learn from a lot of great people growing up in the business, whether they knew they were my mentor or not. And I'm a firm believer in giving back and paying it forward, because I'm not going to be here. I'm not going to be here 5 or 10 years from now. And I want to make sure like we are setting up our team for success and succession planning and the future leaders of tomorrow. And hopefully, like, I want to pay it forward for those that did the same for me and still continue to do today. Trust me, I have mentors today, right? I'm going through I've never done executive coaching, JK. I'm going through right now, and it's been enlightening because I have so much to learn. And even though I've been doing this for 30 years, like, I always say the day I don't make a mistake or learn something new will be my first. And I fail every single day. And I'm thankful. Like, one of the biggest mindset shifts that I had to make, and I tell this story kiddingly, and where's Ted? Ted will appreciate this one because he lived through it with me, and Marcy did too at FCA, and Dana and others. I came from an environment where if you failed, you found a shovel and you found the biggest pile of dirt you could find, and you try to bury the body quickly, right? And you hope that plane didn't touch down from Milano or wherever it was coming from, and before and the grass grew over the thing. And we'll edit this on the YouTube video. But when I joined here, I was 3 weeks into the job, and I made a mistake. I failed, and looking back on it, it wasn't a big deal. At the time, I was like, I'm updating my LinkedIn. I got a text message from this guy, and I got a text message from this guy, and it was all in caps. It was all in caps, and there was about 15 other phone numbers on this text message that I only had about 2 of the numbers in there, so I didn't know who it was. And for my first 2 or 3 months, my name was the new marketing guy, not Casey. And the new marketing guy received feedback on this text thread, and I was beyond panic. And I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna call Olivier and see if I can't get back. and see if Alfa Romeo needs me or whatever it might be. And I remember a complete panic. And I remember I went to somebody and I showed somebody the text.
Yeah.
And it was a seasoned veteran. And they told me, and it was like, he's just saying hi. And I was like, okay, that's an interesting way of saying hello. And what they said was, well, tell me what happened. And I explained what I did. And, you know, at the time I thought it was traumatic. And their advice to me was like, it's okay. Like we are a company. This goes back to the first year or so of like rewire my head and mindset of like, you failed. Yeah, I did fail. That's okay. What did you do? What did you learn from that? And how can you apply it to be better next time? That's what this guy wants to hear from you. And that was there have been many eye-opening moments. I still have them today. You know, only being 5 years in, I have not been here 37 years, and I learned from team members and, you know, counsel. And that was one moment that was eye-opening. I'll tell you another one that was really, I was in the job maybe a month and a half. I got asked to speak at a digital summit with Anthony Winters, and I'm working 18, 20 hours a day. I'm not sleeping well. I'm panicking. I agreed to do this speech, and I went and I spoke at Kobo, and it wasn't my best one, and I knew it wasn't. And I walked off the stage, and Allison was with me. And I'm a younger team member, maybe 25, 28 years old. He's like, hey, can I walk back? I'm like, yeah, sure, come on, let's go. We're walking from Kobo over to OCM. And as we're walking, he's like, I have feedback for you. And he started telling me everything I could have done better in that speech. And those of you that remember the movie Airplane, remember when the kid got up and he started telling Kareem Abdul-Jabbar about how his dad was disappointed because, you know, blah, blah, blah. He's like, my dad says you're lazy and blah, blah. He goes, and he grabs the kid by the fucking neck and he goes, you tell your dad, you know, what it's like to carry Bob Lanier up and down the court for 45 minutes. And I was so incensed. I walked back to my office, I closed the door, and I don't get mad very often. I would say, if I get mad, watch out. And I was so incensed. And Allison was there, and I was telling him, like, how dare he? Does he realize, blah, 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 and how, like, and let me tell you, if I was at Chrysler and I went to Mr. Marchione and I, and you know what she told me? She goes, feedback's a gift.
Yeah. Truth.
Feedback's a gift. And everybody, we're empowered here to get, and that was a very, like, I've had some very early lessons that were aha moments. And it's just important I share those stories because, you know, as we walk in our shoes in leadership and as a marketer, we all have those moments. I mean, you know, of like wins. We love to talk about wins. Yep. Trust me, no one loves to talk about wins more than I. But you know, with those wins, there's a you know, as Big Sean says, you take some L's along the way.
I don't know how we're doing on time, Case.
I don't know either.
Do we have a warning? Because I do have one more that is a really hard-hitting question.
We got 5. You got 5? Right,
we got 5?
All right.
Oh, did you get rid of the shovel then? After that?
I still keep it.
Oh, okay. So
I have some secrets.
And by the way, that was for anyone, I thought that was a very positive piece that Casey ended on in the feedback. Who likes to give feedback, by the way? Anybody? Everyone's like, no, I don't ever do it. It's so critical. Thank you, Marcy. But Casey, in these last 5 minutes, it'll probably be shorter, but
all right,
I got to throw it out there.
Yeah.
What would make you consider a return to auto?
Wait, one more time.
Would you consider a return to auto?
No one's ever asked me that before. Listen, I've been if you LinkedIn, there's 3. Well, even if you really go deep, there's with the agency changes. Right. In my mind, I've been 2 places my whole career, right? BBD, right. Then Chrysler, then here. I want to retire here. I think there is 0 ceiling on what I might be able to do here within the organization. We have 100+ companies. And we are just getting started. I think you're going to continue to see growth within the organization. And I don't know what's next for me. I mean, sometimes when you talk with young people, a lot of people ask, like, hey, I'm like, the day that someone sits down with me in path, like I always thought when I graduated from college, someone's going to sit down with me. It was going to be like an ISO 9001 like flow chart.
Yes.
The day someone sits down with me and says, all right, do this, and then will be my first, right? And so the fact that I don't know what's next is some people kind of complete panic. I'm at complete peace with it. And I don't know what's next, but I will tell you, I would love to retire here. And I don't know what that is. Do I want to be the CMO until I retire? I mean, my team hasn't heard this from me. No.
Right.
But I don't know what's next. I mean, I could, there's a couple things. I would love to be in sports. I'd do Detroit Bruce tours. I want to teach. I'm on the Michigan State Alumni Board. I'm going up there next week. I've told the dean, I want to teach. Would I go back to automotive? Never say never, because I also said I would never work at Chrysler, and I worked at Chrysler. I said I never would work downtown, and here I am.
Here you are.
So I've said two things that have bit me in the ass, so I'll never say never.
Good. That's and not to keep it on that topic, but I think such a unique pivot and where you'd been, and you did share a little bit about consideration of the future, not about auto, but I love that you touched on those points of sports and tours, teaching. Everyone knows.
That's why I do. That's why I do AdCraft and DAA, Brand Innovators, and the Rocket team member. I love spending the intern program that we have. I think we have the most impressive intern program anywhere ever been. We have 1,000 kids every summer. We'll have 45 in marketing. I am still tight with every intern I've ever had at FCA, my FCA days and here, and because I'm proud, because they are the future leaders, right? And I always say, I tell everybody, treat your intern better than your grandmother, because you will ask them for a job one day.
Incredible. Casey, incredible mentor. There he is. Come on. Brian agrees. Yes, that's absolutely correct. Casey, huge Spartan fan, and AdCraft president, great mentor. I'm not sure if I have liked or celebrated more interns on LinkedIn than folks coming out of your program, just as far as the profile. So it's been a pleasure.
There's been a lot of them that have moved on to great careers and at the beginning stages, and some are growing now, because I've been around a long, long time. But it's always awesome. I mean, I'm so impressed with young students when you meet with them, and they're it is, you look back at yourself and you meet kids that are juniors and seniors, you're like, oh my God, give me 6 months and they could do my job. I am just blown away. Now the opportunities, there are so many more opportunities and learning opportunities and career and entrepreneur clubs and all the different things that students can do nowadays. And we're all in the talent acquisition business too, right? I mean, Melissa and I are competing, we're friends, but we're also competing maybe for the same talent. But at the end of the day, I want Detroit to win. So I'm gonna hug an intern that says I'm gonna get my dream job to go work for Melissa at Cadillac. I'm gonna hug them and wish them the best, and we'll steal them when they're ready.
I love it.
All right.
I love it. Hey, those kicks, fresher than wet paint, baby.
StockX, go to stockx.com, open 24/7.
That's awesome.
And
you got me for sure.
Yeah, you have good vans. Those vans are.
Thank you.
They're I can't pull the Vans look. I've tried before, but
no, those look great.
These are really cool. These are Nike. They're Dunks, and they're Jackie Robinson 1942. So it's a whole celebration of. So you've got some of the Jackie Robinson quotes, little baseball laces. Yeah, they're she busted them out of the box today. They're awesome.
Awesome.
All right.
Hi, it's me again. Hello. Wait. You're not done. You're not done. No, because we're going to take a couple of questions from the audience. Does anybody have any questions for Casey or Jason? By chance, I got a mic here. I'm going to run out. Yes. Okay.
Oh, geez, I should stay up here. Oh, I was trying to run. Okay.
I have a really, really important question. Did you get those shoes on StockX?
Yeah. Oh, you didn't hear it, Dina? Yes, of course I did.
You guys will be seeing her in just a moment.
Put your kids through college.
Love it. Hey, just a quick question. I wondered, why did you guys change the name from Quicken to Rocket? And it seemed so successful to do a rebrand of your core business.
Yeah, I'll give you. It's a long story, but I'll break it down in a minute. Dan sold the company to Intuit in Whitfield, I think in '99, right? Dan sold the company. It was Rock Financial at the time to Intuit, QuickBooks, in '99 for $350-400 million. Bought it back from Intuit 3 years later for $60 million. So a nice little ROI on that. At the time, Intuit changed the name to Quicken Loans. And real talk there is we licensed the name from Intuit. So as we continue to expand our fintech portfolio, we were only allowed to use the Quicken name for home loans. So as this was prior to me, but as we started thinking about Dan, two pivotal moments in the Quicken Rocket history. One was in 99 when Dan said, I think the future is on the web. And I want to see, can we start to do on the web what I'm seeing happen with books and music and travel, right? In 99. And so that was a pivotal moment. The other one was coming out of the recession. The discussion was, why can't we also then go end-to-end origination? And so that plan to launch Rocket was born coming out of the recession. And we knew as we wanted to expand the fintech portfolio, we could not use the Quicken name. And we didn't want to use the Quicken name to launch Rocket end-to-end origination. So that was, Rocket Mortgage was launched in 2016. I joined in April of 17. So as we were mapping out the brand architecture and future products, as we were, I'll show you a quick image, super quick. As we were mapping out the future fintech products, we knew we couldn't use the Quicken name. So we strategically started to use Rocket, not only for mortgage, but how do we continue to build the brand architecture for our other fintech brands or products that we either were renaming or launching from the ground up under the Rocket moniker. So when I joined 5 years ago, Mark, the in-house agency team was primarily just focused on Quicken/Rocket. And as we brought in other Rocket fintechs, either established brands that weren't utilizing the in-house marketing team, or in the 5 years since I've been here, we've launched Edison Financial, which is now Rocket Mortgage Canada, Rocket Auto 2 years ago, Rocket Central, which is our centralized services, if you will, company. Rocket Solar is less a year old. And then we just bought Truebill in Q4 of last year, managed subscriptions, bills, savings. We just rebranded that to Rocket Money 45 days ago. And so now you've got this whole brand architecture structure. We'll talk about that as part of my leadership thing. So that was like literally, it's still an ongoing thing, but that was one of the first things I was asked to help with was the brand architecture in the renaming and sunning down, if you will, the Quicken Loans name. It's equivalent to like Comcast versus Xfinity. You know, I still call it Comcast and it's been Xfinity for how long? 10 years? I got introduced recently as Casey Hurbis, the Chief Marketing Officer with Rock Financial. And I'm like, it hasn't been Rock Financial since 1998. But okay, you know, because it's legacy. I mean, and we still utilize the Quicken Loans name for service, our owner loyalty service clients, as well as some like low in-market performance marketing where we can really be playful with the brand and be a little more aggressive. But that's about a 20-year history there in a few minutes. All right, thank you.